listening to Pop This, the podcast where three women talk about pop culture. Here are your hosts, Lisa Christiansen, Andrea Gin, and Andrea Warner.
Okay, so you know how... Oh, I guess, Lisa, you're not on Twitter anymore. But
I am not.
But you know how, like, random things come up in your Twitter feed and that you've never thought about in many, many years, and all of a sudden you just kind of go down a rabbit hole?
Yes.
Today on my Twitter, someone was like, hey, everybody, remember ballet skiing?
Oh, yeah.
What happened to ballet skiing?
Oh, so you do remember ballet skiing? Because I had totally forgotten about it as a sport. So, like, where people do, like, a figure skating routine, but on skis.
Yeah.
And it's to music, and they go down a hill.
Isn't that an Olympic sport?
It was an Olympic demonstration sport, and then it didn't really catch on. And it didn't, I think it just, like, went out of fashion. Like, people don't do it anymore. But I was, like, watching these videos on YouTube of ballet skiing, and it's amazing. I had forgotten.
And now you're going to start a campaign to bring it back.
Maybe. Because it's like skiers are wearing, like, they're wearing like figure skating type outfits, but like ski.
Oh,
like,
so this is where it's
skiing.
going. It's going back to figure skating for you.
And they're doing like jumps, and like they would lean on their poles and do spins in the air. And there's like a routine, like there's music, and they're doing like a full routine coming down the hill and stuff. Like, why did that ever go out of like popular? Like, why don't people do that anymore?
How did it even get started in the first place?
Yeah, I'm also gonna bet like people died doing. Can you imagine like just like a tragic jump to like some kind of like, I don't know, the soundtrack to Moulin Rouge? Like, that's just, you can't have that happen. Like, that's, oh my God.
When I watched pairs figure skating, not the ice dancing, but the pairs figure skating, I'm always shocked that there's not more death. When they're hurling those tiny girls in the air, like, and catching them and throwing them, and they're wearing like metal on their feet. Like, I don't understand how that works.
Yeah. Like it should have been like the plot of like that Will Ferrell ice skating movie where like they accidentally chop off a head with the blade because I shouldn't laugh, but I really can see that happening at some point of just doing grievous bodily injury, or at least like, I mean, there's a major artery in the thigh where a lot of people stand on their partner's legs.
Yeah, well,
speed by.
As a figure skating fan, I have seen some things. Like even in this Paris competition in this Olympics, there was like a fall where like they were doing a lift, and it got to that point where she was over his head, and her weight just went too far back, and he like lost his balance and like,
oh my
dropped
God!
her, and they both kind of fell backwards.
Were they horribly injured?
No, they like got up and continued their program. And I mean, maybe they had bruises or injuries afterwards, but like they managed to finish their program and get off the ice, and they seemed fine. They're collecting their marks and stuff. And
I saw the one where I've only watched a tiny bit of Olympics this time, but I saw the one where he was finishing the routine and he was holding her up, and then she was supposed to sort of roll down his body in the front, and he dropped her. And that looked, honestly, like it looked like she took it both on the arm and in the face. Like he fell on her face somehow. Oh my, it looked brutal.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there have been pretty bad injuries in pairs, but like, yeah, I mean, I don't understand. Like, I would be so scared to do pairs. I don't know how.
I find just being on the ice scary. I mean, like, you know, it just terrifies me. It makes me think of being outside when you're trying to walk down a sidewalk that's too, like, that's my great fear. Well, now that I've fallen downstairs, I guess I can add extra fears. But, you know, just wiping out on the ice and hitting your head or something.
But can you imagine being like tossed
No.
in the air
No.
and then caught?
No, whose idea was that anyway to even start that as a competition?
Yeah, it's absolutely wild. Like that, tossed and caught.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and spinning in the air. Again, I remind everyone, wearing metal on their feet, like sharp metal. Like, it doesn't even make any sense now that we're saying it. It's like if you pitched it, people would not go, yes, that on hard ice, yes. In like very skimpy clothing, yes, let's do this. Like, that would not happen.
I do love watching the figure skating too, and I'm not fully caught up, but we were watching some of the pairs dancing, ice dancing, and I forgot that one of the criteria is that like you're not supposed to throw your partner necessarily. Like, you always have to be sort of connected or touching or whatever. So there's, right? Am I wrong or am I right?
For pairs?
Yeah, pairs ice dancing.
Oh, for ice dancing? No, you can be separated.
Okay. They just didn't seem to throw people as far as like in the other pairs.
You don't throw people in.
Oh no,
in
yeah.
dancing.
In ice dance, you don't do jumps or throws or lifts.
It's more to look literally like ballroom dancing, but on ice, right?
Yeah, you can't lift your partner above your like head, basically.
Okay, there seemed to be a lot of lifts, but not. I guess you're right. Not like super above the head or anything. Yeah, I guess they were like figuring out some creative things that look like lifts and were therefore very weird.
Yeah. Definitely.
Like I saw what could only be described as like both of them were squatting but like one of them was upside down, so it looked like a real like sort of Exercisers 69 but on skates. And it was so inelegant, but I know that the point was like that they were doing this like very difficult maneuver or whatever, but I just thought I shouldn't have to see people's like bedroom routines on ice. Like that's not actually what I'm here for.
One of the things everyone in figure skating Twitter was talking about was Scott and Tessa were doing figure skating commentary during the dance competition this year, and Scott he said one of the routines he found like a little too raunchy for his taste, and immediately everybody like pulled up the image of Scott and Tessa at 2018 where they do that lift where basically like her crotch is in his face.
Yeah.
Like their famous lift.
Their like, most famous, raunchiest lift. Yeah.
Yeah. They were like,
get over yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
He's the king of like raunchy. You invented the raunchy lift.
Yeah, it's
the Raunchy Lift. What a great band name. Hi, we're the Raunchy Lift. This is our first song. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm in.
It freaks me out when I find out that the people doing the routines for that kind of stuff are brother and sister. Although I've heard that it's better when they're brother and sister, because then they don't rely on sort of the more like sexual romantic routines. They do a little more innovation in sort of like a a very like platonic presentation. And I don't know, I guess I'm just like, maybe I see too many things as being sexual when they're not, but I gotta say, when your sister's crotch is in your face and you're spinning around a rink, I don't see it as particularly platonic, but you know what? That's on me.
That's on you. You don't understand the call to figure skating.
I think you've been watching too many like Sarah Jessica Parker rom-com dance movies.
I guess. I mean, this certainly sort of was a bit tamer.
A lot tamer.
See, this is why people think all dance is sexual.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you divorce the dance from the competition, we get a, almost G-rated. They only got a PG for that, like, daughter-mother confrontation scene. Anyway, I can't wait to talk about this movie.
Yeah, wow.
I am...
Okay.
And I'm going to say, I'm appropriately slightly delirious to talk about it. So I'm so happy. Look at us creating our own joyful noise. I'm Andrea Warner.
I'm Lisa Christiansen.
I'm Andrea Gin.
And you're listening to Pop This. And yes, you heard us right. We are talking about joyful noise.
If we were already the joyful noise for them, but now there's an actual thing called joyful noise.
I know that I have to, read the background and stuff like that, but like I just have to ask a question first. Had either of you ever seen this film?
No, never even heard of it.
No.
Great. Good. I can't wait to get into it. It's the 10th anniversary of Joyful Noise, starring Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton. 2012 American musical comedy drama film. And it's special. It was written and directed by Todd Graff with a gospel-infused music by Mervyn Warren? Yes, Mervyn Warren. The film was released in the U.S. theaters on January 13th, 2012. I was reviewing film at this time. I remember watching it in a theater with me and one other film critic. How awkward. In the film, two strong-minded women are forced to cooperate when budget cuts threaten to shut down a small-town choir. The film received mixed reviews. I was one of them, with praise for its songs and acting, but criticism of its script and tone. Again.
Okay, so hold on. Let's go back to 2012 for a second.
Yeah.
What was the movie landscape like in 2012 that you were paid to review this movie in a theater? Because it just doesn't seem like something that would garner reviews. Because it's like a made-for-TV movie almost.
Oh no! The thing you got to understand is that if you are a film reviewer, and I was for 5 years, that was part of my job and stuff. January is the dumping ground of everything that's terrible. So if you have at that point, it's not as much anymore, but at that point for sure, if you have a movie that is not good, they release it in January. So everything that gets reviewed in January is typically kind of terrible. And so this actually has a chance at standing out in sharp relief because it's not as terrible as everything else is getting released. The second thing is that if you're a film, typically, if you're a sort of Christian film, you have such an audience built in that's really hungry for sort of, good quality God stuff, that they'll go see anything. Typically, this is what Hollywood studios are counting on. But this movie was actually kind of too progressive for a far right, we only go to Christian film stuff. So it's actually kind of a risky Christian film because it shows, premarital sex, and it shows, a few other things that certainly a sort of a much more hardcore, God-fearing audience would be a little bit critical of and not take kindly to.
What I was thinking about when I was watching this was peak Glee time, wasn't it?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and that because I felt like I was just watching an extra version of Glee. Because when that show came out, I was pretty addicted to watching it for the first few seasons, I have to say.
Yeah.
It went away.
I loved the first 2 years, and then I was like, oh, God.
Yeah, exactly. I was out then. But because I was thinking there had to be somebody that said, this Glee thing that's doing, come on, we need some kind of Glee thing. That's what it felt like. And plus, I've never in my life have I said regionals more than when I watched Glee. I just don't even care about regionals. And that's all that I think about after watching Glee.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this movie now.
Yeah.
But so, did you give it a good review or a bad review?
Well, I mean, I was a snarkier writer back then. And so there's more snark in the film. I'm a bit more critical. of certain things, and I gave like the storyline between Warren and Randy a little bit more praise than I would have now. But I ultimately sort of gave it like a mixed review, that it was like much more than the sum of its parts because of the performances.
Well, it's hard. You can't hate on something with Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton. It seems like there's some kind of rule.
Yeah, that's the thing. So I literally found my old review, and I'll just tell you, this is how my review ends. The plot twists, such as they are buoyed by a cast that can actually sing. A few engaging gospel numbers, including a rousing finale, almost make the mashup craze tolerable. A little more divine intervention like that and joyful noise might have genuinely lived up to its name.
Huh. Yeah.
Wow, that's a nice summation.
That about sums it up. I think we're done here.
Yeah, okay. Thanks for tuning in to Pop This, everyone.
Yeah.
We're now just going to only talk about movies that I reviewed once upon a time. We'll briefly banter about it, and then we'll read the last paragraph of my review, and that's done.
And we'll only from now on do movies that were released during the Dumping Ground season, because that seems like a good idea.
Oh my God. The Dumping Ground season, and just talk about movies released in January's, is a great idea for a podcast, Lisa.
Yes.
Like, just...
Oh my gosh. Well, now I guess we're, like you said, it's not the same thing. I mean, when I think of the last, unless it is on Netflix, but in the last few weeks, it just feels like every day is some kind of big splashy new release from Netflix. So I don't know, is that the same thing or is it different?
I think streaming really changed things. It was a Hollywood rule more than anything, that like if you were gonna, if your film, if there was no way your film was gonna be like needed for any kind of Oscar contention, and it was like truly not great, January was like, you know, the right time to drop it, because it didn't have to worry about awards consideration. So that's why like so much prestige stuff happens on Christmas. It's weird.
I would just like the way that they must have phrased that to, like, you know, everyone in the movie. Like, we're releasing this in January because we don't have to worry about any awards consideration.
Oh, yeah. I honestly believe that they do not tell a single soul until they've done like the third round of testing on people afterwards, and they've done the third edit, and they couldn't make it better in the editing. But I mean, I really like anybody who signed up to be in this movie was just like, well, we know what this is, you know? Like Dolly Parton and Queen Latifah are very smart, creative, you know, business women. They read this script. They were just like, you know what? This could suit our audiences. It's fine. It'll be like homespun and folksy and people will like it. But we're not going to think about awards, except maybe an Oscar for best song they might have wanted, or a Golden Globe, you know.
Well, good luck with that thought. That's all I can say.
All right. Lisa, do you want to read the synopsis?
Sure, I do. Hard times have fallen on Packashaw, Georgia, but the townspeople have faith that the Divinity Church Choir will lift their spirits by winning a national competition. The choir has always made beautiful music, but now its two leading ladies have hit a sour note. Vi Rose, played by Queen Latifah, believes that a traditional style is the key to victory, but Gigi, played by Dolly Parton, thinks tried and true means tired and old. The two singers must find a harmonious chord or risk losing everything. I don't feel when I was watching the movie that the stakes were very high.
Well, that's the thing. Like, this synopsis, like I hear you read it, and I'm like, that sounds good. Like, I can see.
that like, sounds interesting.
Queen Latifah versus Dolly, like, that would be really funny. Like, yeah, I think the premise of this is good.
Who can be sassier? Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
but somehow this movie, I don't think like quite follows through on the promise of this premise.
No, it does not. No.
Well, I mean, I think part of it is that they. It's like they were trying to satisfy like multiple audiences. Like, doesn't it feel like, why aren't Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton in more scenes together? Number one, why isn't like their contentious sort of thing, the actual heartbeat of the film, instead of just like, and why don't we have like a bit more reason as to why they feel this towards each other? Like they have obviously coexisted in this choir for a long time. Vi Rose was like the second in charge of Dolly's husband, who obviously like dies immediately. Chris Christopherson, nice to see him.
Very odd choice to kill someone in the first 3 minutes of the movie, but
like before the credits even roll,
and then bring him
funeral.
Bring him back for a ghost dance.
Yeah.
Oh man, you know, I gotta say that ghost dance, I remember being in the theaters and being so mad at myself that I was crying while this ghost.
No.
Yes.
Come on.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. No, I know.
I felt like when I was watching it, there was a moment where I was like, 'cause like there was this produced by like a Christian television network or something. Yeah, I just wasn't. And then I was like, no, but like it must be mainstream because like Dolly Parton and Keke Palmer and Queen Latifah are in it. It's not. Yeah, it was. It felt a little bit like this isn't this doesn't feel like a mainstream movie to me.
Well, again, that January release, I think is part of it. But I do think that it might not be like a typically like mainstream film, but like the power of Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton, like get it a mainstream release. And that particularly for 2012, it is like a sort of like a much more progressive depiction of like all of the people who go to church, like it's talking about actual class struggle. It's talking about privilege. It's talking about, again, this poor woman whose apparent, sexual appetite is like what kills her mate. It has interracial dating. There's all kinds of things that are sort of tied up with like, sort of like much more sort of like extreme Christian values types sort of like concerns of broadcast concerns. This is actually kind of progressive for 10 years ago. Remember seeing Pitch Perfect a couple weeks ago?
Yeah.
I feel like there is something in these two films that are a little bit in relationship with each other, and it's not just the word regionals. It's like this movie is funnier than Pitch Perfect.
Yeah, okay. I found the movie very confusing.
Yes.
I found like I even almost wanted, but I didn't because I didn't enjoy it, so I wasn't going to go back. But I found I found that relationship between Queen Latifah and her husband to be so strange. What was that?
Yeah.
What was going on? Why did they not see? They didn't look like they lived that far apart.
Nope.
If you could just drive there. Like,
Nope.
and why was he away? What? And then at the end of the movie, there he is, just like as if nothing went wrong. Like, I don't understand. I did not understand. Even the mother-daughter fight, I don't understand. Like, I found it very confusing.
Yeah, for a movie that's 2 hours long, it needed like another half hour, but it also needed not to be another half hour. You know what I mean?
It did not need to be 2 hours long. It did not.
No.
Yeah, I feel like because they had Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton, they had a bunch of songs, and the songs were pretty good. Like the soundtrack's pretty good, and so they felt like they had to include all these musical numbers. And they probably felt like they couldn't cut the musical numbers.
And here's another bit of confusion. So at the end, in our big finale, when Queen Latifah, who is the tried and true, we're just going to play it straight, suddenly changes her mind, and that routine is something they had in their, like, what? How did they put that routine together that they all of a sudden just drop in?
Yeah. I know.
Did that make any sense to anyone?
That didn't make any sense.
Why would you not be doing that? They had the dance routine. They had the whole, and that fake guy producer back there. Oh, well, let's just go with it. And then the lights were perfect. Like, it didn't make any sense at all.
And all of a sudden they were playing like this huge band number too.
Like, yeah. They had horns and like they were perfectly synced with these songs. They changed all the lyrics to make them, about God. Like, it was a lot of work to have put that together and have gone all the way and decided, no, we're not going to do that one.
I know. It's like, unless we somehow, like, we missed like 8 months of practice or something, like in between watching the storyline happen. Yeah, I didn't understand that at all.
Yeah, I mean, there's a door to open there to say that's just divine divine intervention, but I don't want to do that because there are parts of this movie that I do really enjoy. Like, I can't help it. Even still, like, even watching it this time and just being like, what is this? Like, I remember so little of this, and I know I haven't seen it in 10 years, but like, come on, like, this, I remember so little, and that's
a blessing if we're going to
go
with
you're right.
You're right.
Here. Yeah. But like, Queen Latifah and Dolly Parton are very fun together. I really liked hearing their harmonies in the opening number. Like, that opening number sets us up to think this is going to be great, like, it's we see them sort of singing and moving together in this like way that shows that they gel, and then we get instead like a sudden death and a funeral scene that is very confusing. Like, it's like, I mean, just about how he loved life so much, they had 5 children together. And I mean, I'm all for, sex jokes, but it seemed like a funeral was like a weird place to put one, but that's fine. That's fine. And then instead of like the reading of a will after, it's like the division of labor of who gets control of the choir.
Yeah, that's the funniest thing. It's like, that's the priority here.
Well, and
that's what people care about.
Are we to understand? Because like at one point, Gigi, who played by Dolly, says that she had helped him write these songs and arrange these songs forever. It's a job that belongs to her. So she did all that, but never got any credit. Like, she's just publicly claiming credit now. And like, she's been secretly ghost co-directing this choir for a number of years, and they were performing original material week after week. That's wild.
Like, how did she have time?
How are they rich? What is going on? Anyway,
that's only something you can do if you like literally have Dolly Parton in your choir.
Yeah.
It can't be done by just some person in a choir. You can't write original tunes for your church week after week after week.
Question: Keke Palmer, was that her singing?
Yes,
it was. Wow, I didn't know she was
incredible.
A singer. I didn't know.
Yeah, she's been on Broadway and stuff.
Oh, I didn't know that. Sorry. Yeah.
Keke Palmer is so great.
Yeah.
I know that Olivia gets to just sort of they're just like, Olivia gets to be a wild, weird chaos hormone of a character because she's 16.
Yeah.
Just chalk it up to being 16.
And she's not even being that wild and hormonal. She just likes a boy. Like, I was really shocked. I mean, I did not. I mean, and that Randy character was just like,
oh my God. Is he like
first he looked 30 again.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. He looked way too old to be in high school.
And just was full on. It didn't make any sense. Like, where did he come from? What was going on?
New York.
Nobody knew that he could sing like that. Like, he just shows up and he's one of the Backstreet Boys. Like,
yeah, like, why, if they're setting him up to be some kind of like a bad boy character, it's like, why does this guy like immediately just
know how
join
to sing
the
and dance?
Church choir? Yeah.
I just like Jeremy Jordan that's who plays Randy, is honestly like, he gets some really terrible lines. They do not know how to treat 16-year-olds in this film at all. Like, he talks about Olivia having his babies. There are not many 16-year-old boys, to my knowledge, who are just like super interested in getting girls pregnant. At least like,
was he supposed to be 16 as well?
Allegedly, yeah.
Okay.
Like they used to hang out when they were 5, and he got her to swallow a goldfish.
Yeah, I remember that. I guess I just thought he was a bit older. Like,
no, I think he's supposed to be 16 as well.
10 years. So,
and then it's. And then Queen Latifah also, like, her character Vi Rose has to make a joke about her daughter getting pregnant as well at the end after they hook up. Dolly Parton tells Olivia that she has to show Randy that she's not a little girl anymore and that she's a woman. Again, this girl is 16. Like, the most appropriate 16-year-old thing that she does, I think, in this whole movie is, 1, want to be able to like a boy, and then 2, like, you know, hate her mom unreasonably, and then be firmly corrected back into respect, you know, which apparently comes at the hands of like slapping a girl in public. Anyway, aside of the slapping, I really enjoyed their confrontation, just because I thought it was a good bit of acting from both of them.
But it didn't make any sense at all.
It doesn't make sense, but it gives the film a tiny bit of stakes, but it doesn't earn it. You're right.
Yeah, no, it just didn't make any sense at all. Like, it would have, if you're going to go through that whole conversation about how you don't think you're pretty, then it should have been Queen Latifah having some sort of, excuse the phrase, but moment to God, you know, like, just maybe she's right. But no, she just blew it off. It didn't make any sense at all.
Yeah. I mean, I like Queen Latifah, and I think she's a great actress, but it just seemed a little off to me that she was playing this, like, conservative person who didn't want to play new tunes, and that, like, Dolly, as the older white woman, was the one that was pushing for change. Like, that didn't make sense to me, and I wonder, like, what, like, maybe they're trying to switch those roles to be, like, a little bit, to break the molds a bit or break stereotypes, but it just didn't, it seemed weird to me. I didn't quite believe it.
Wasn't very convincing.
Yeah.
It's not very convincing. And I mean, they also, like, Randy gets set up to be this, like, white savior. Dolly gets to be this white savior. Like we literally see them arrive separate from everybody else because they're rich and they took a plane. And then they're swarmed by all their, like, colleagues at the hotel. Like, they're going to save the day. And the movie doesn't need it. And I actually think, like, the movie would have been so much better, again, if we could, like, rewrite it. And, like, Randy doesn't exist. We just write him out. And it's really, like, about Dolly, like, Dolly's Gigi and Queen Latifah's Vi Rose, like, figuring out sort of, like, some of the complex stuff between them and, like, how that has, like, you know, sort of
there was enough there.
Seep down into the choir and, like, give the choir a chance to sort of, like, help, you know, heal from, I don't know, like, tons and tons and tons of, like, you know, history.
Like, a couple people dying in their choir. Like, it's...
They've had a lot of grief, too. Like, this movie does not pause for grief.
I was confused again. So when Dolly announces that she made herself a minister, what exactly did that change?
Apparently that she could sponsor the choir because Courtney B. Vance's minister character was refusing to let them go ahead with, like, the new song.
But refusing, he had no money. They had no money. That was the reason why.
Like, they were also on their way. Like, they were already on the bus to the competition.
He was going to the competition.
Yeah, obviously he went too. Yeah. The money, I mean, you're right. I don't know.
He said we're broke. That's why we can't keep doing this. We keep losing, which also felt like a very unchristian message. We only do this to win competitions. You guys are losers, so we're out.
I mean, speaking of, like, kind of, like, messages that sort of seem a little unchristian, is, like, we do not have to care about these young children who are very good. We are going to annihilate them, and we are going to take these kids down.
You guys can make a donation to some sort of Save the Children Foundation if you want. What?
I'm here to win. And that, honestly, I like that. I mean, that you should take children down. But it was... but it was so weird. And it's... this movie is so weird. Like, I mean, there's so much going on and yet nothing at all. And there's
just... no stakes.
No stakes.
No stakes. Like... And I do think that the word regionals is like cursed now. Do you remember that? Did you guys ever watch that episode of Community that's like a Christmas episode and they have to take over for the choir that they've all died? No. And it turns out the choir director, who's like geniusly played by like Taron Killam, Anyway, it's great. It's a great episode, and they talk about regionals nonstop, and it's so funny.
Yeah, well, they were making fun of Glee as well, right?
They sure are. Yeah. The also like this is so the character of Walter. Like, I didn't look it up, and to be fair to the film, maybe I should have, but it did not feel to me like they had any kind of. Seemingly any kind of like neurodiverse person as a consultant for that particular depiction, that they just went with like the real classic, like Vi Rose might feel guilty. Like all these people presuming what Vi Rose feels and what she doesn't feel, like that she feels guilty that she gave birth to a son with Asperger's, that she feels guilty that she can't keep her husband around, that she feels guilty that she's not thin, that she feels guilty that she has to work hard at a job because the economy is bad. Like, there are some wild assumptions shoved onto Vi Rose throughout this film. And I thought that kind of, it's not like successful at handling it, but it's kind of interesting to think about, like, how that might be true in a small town where there is so much sort of like put into the hands of a higher power and everything still seems to be so hard, you know? Like, a little bit of commentary on that is kind of interesting, but like, I just don't think that the writer handled it skillfully enough.
Yeah, and the fact that it's set in Georgia and it's like, you know, like there are obviously like there's a black family and a white family and they are a mixed race church. And it's like the movie for all of that stuff is like completely devoid of any like racial tension or like basically racism doesn't exist in this movie in spite of like where it's set and all the people that are together.
Yeah, and
it's setting.
Like, but they still want to have like they want to do the white savior thing but not think about racism at all. Like they want to like put every single amount of hardship onto the black woman character and then like say that that's sort of like fair and that's as much that like she and Gigi, like Vi Rose and Gigi both have like reasons for disliking each other. Like that's why I think like Queen Latifah does such a good job sort of like attacking these moments where she's able to sort of like articulate what her character, like take back some of the agency that the movie tries to strip from her character, you know, like she's defending herself and maybe like a lot of other sort of very just a lot of other black women who end up having to have everything on their shoulders. Like it feels like she's doing as much as she can in this moment to sort of be like, you don't get to tell me how I think or feel. You don't get to presume what you know about me. when she's like that fight that she does have with Olivia, and it does end with like my snoring is like the music of Marvin Gaye. Like a wild line, but the way Queen Latifah delivers it, golden. You know what I mean? Like it's, yeah. I wonder if she got to like rewrite anything, because like her lines end up being at least sounding kind of the best and make the most sense, even if she's in a pit of nonsense where the story makes no sense.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I wonder, like where all these folksy aphorisms came from. Because there's like one every 30 seconds in this movie, seemingly.
It was like every 10 minutes was, I'd like to sing in your choir, but does a polecat like to eat biscuits in the rain?
I think more than every 10 minutes, I gotta say, like, it's, oh my God. There's an article by Richard Corliss for Time. And he talks about how like the writer, Todd Graff, the writer and director, has like done the musical comedy thing before. But that this time he quote unquote spices his script cliches with Cracker Barrel wisdom. So, oh my God, it's so like
Steel Magnolias. It's not.
It is no. Oh my God. So like, there's always free cheese in the mousetrap, but trust me, the mice don't like it. You're so country. You've been married 3 times, and you're still in this. You still got the same in-laws. When folks get wrapped up in themselves, they make very small packages. I mean, I like that one. I thought that actually really stood the test of time. Yeah, something about just she's so upset. She's like a hen shooting square eggs or something, or laying square eggs. Like, I don't know. It was.
I was like, I don't have the tools to understand any of these things.
No,
a lot of them.
And I don't know how much of it is like real, actual. Like, does anyone actually talk like this, or is this just an assumption of like a few of them that came out of Dolly's mouth felt, genuine, but a few of them felt like they were just like some weird Ozarks found poetry. Like it just did not make sense at all.
Yeah. And they just kept coming.
They just kept coming. I also found it weird that we would get into these like 2 little moments where like suddenly it's like a Super 8 camera showing the memories of the brief relationship that Randy and Olivia had, as if it is an epic old romance.
Yeah, I know, with weird camera with the filters. And yeah, I know. And it didn't make any sense, because every time that Queen Latifah saw him, she was like, fine.
Yeah.
Like they would just be leaning on the banister like, oh, look who's here. Like it didn't, what? And why would you not, anyway, none of it made sense. It was, I think it was, maybe I dreamt the whole thing. Maybe that's what it was.
I mean, if you did, and then we all did as well, how could we have dreamt that mustache on Jesse L. Martin's beautiful face? That mustache that was maybe the most insulting thing. Like, that you would do that to that beautiful person. Like, why? Why? Like,
oh, yeah. And
who do we find responsible for that?
And what a romantic way, and whoever's idea it was that it would be romantic for a couple to meet in a toilet, too, also struck me as a really, and with a stalker, basically. That very, very strange. Very strange.
Well, also, the only 2 Asian characters are these Asian men who find this woman extremely attractive, which she is. She's extremely attractive. It's fine. But like, it's kind of weirdly baffling when Hollywood traditionally does not ever let Asian men be, leading romantic leads. This movie doesn't let them be a romantic lead, but makes them solely the only two Asian men in this movie are in relationship with this other woman who apparently has not had a date in 4 years, and not only bangs one to death, but then meets her stalker in a bathroom and marries him 2 weeks later.
and were we supposed to assume that she had a thing for Asian men? Was that
or that Asian men fetishize her? I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what we're getting.
Like, why
that didn't make sense.
It didn't make sense at all. Like, why was that the person that was stalking her, and then they get married in 2 weeks?
I mean, I always want more people of color to be hired in these things, so you know, yay. But like, I don't know. Weird. Like, maybe give them a little bit of character beyond.
Well, and how does everyone know that she killed somebody having sex? Like, how?
I know.
What about where did this, like, the one guy just sits across from her and he knows this? How is this possible?
There seemed to be like a huge age difference between those two male Asian characters.
Yes.
As well. I found that confusing.
Yeah.
Like, one seemed like he was 20 and the other guy seemed like he was 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Like, yeah.
I didn't.
Yeah, baffling. Quite baffling. I did see that in one of the reviews that was like, in a, what was the expression? Something like in a not so great way to have a happy ending.
Yeah,
because it didn't feel like a happy ending.
It's such a weird ending. Like, also,
and why is her husband coming to some stranger's wedding to see her again?
Why is he coming to a stranger's wedding? Why is his daughter so excited that she runs off the stage to see him? Like, she didn't even hug him goodbye when he left. Like, they went to, like, you know, like, or...
You only have to drive a couple of hours and you can see him. Like, why couldn't he come home on weekends? Like, what kind of a job is this?
It's inappropriate to ruin someone's wedding that you are in order to do that. Like, that's just...
Yeah.
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 Yeah, there's a lot...
When you're like a 16-year-old girl, you do not run down the aisle to hug your dad. No, when you're in someone else's wedding.
Yeah, I mean, simple rules you didn't think you had to say, but that's one of them. If you get nothing from this podcast, please get that rule.
I just like, and also, I don't know, like, okay, so can we just say it? Like, their performance at the championships or the regionals when they win, like aspects of it are pretty good, but also, like, does it really merit the win?
No, I would have given it to the kids.
Yeah.
I would have.
Yeah.
The kids were solid.
And why skip over the winning of the award? Why all of a sudden it just fades right into there's the trophy? Wouldn't it have made a good scene where they get announced as the winner, since that's the whole movie has been directed toward this one event and then we don't see it?
Yeah, but then it becomes about how the town receives them at home, and now the town is like lifted up to something else. Like, I don't. It's
that's not going to put food on the tables. I never heard that expression so much.
Yeah, I mean, there certainly aren't going to be more jobs that come to this town because they won a trophy at a church choir competition.
Unless we really underestimate the power of church choir wins. I mean, I could not, you know, it wouldn't work for me, but I don't live in a small town in Georgia.
No. I feel
and
like
I have
none of the people...
compulsion to do that now, especially.
I'm pretty sure none of the people who made this movie have ever lived in a small town in Georgia. Like, it doesn't seem like they have a lot of sort of like claim to the interiority and reality of anyone's lives in this film.
Absolutely. This is not Cheer. This is not Glee. This is a very odd movie. And are we going to ask the big question now?
I think so. Okay. Yeah. So does it pop?
No. Let's all,
I'm
we
sorry.
can harmonize it. No.
No.
I think that's actually maybe like more of a dirge. Anyway, yeah, I stand by like my old review, which is like if it had just been like a little better, it could have been great, or at least good. But
it had the bones of something.
Yeah, I like the performances.
Yeah, the meat on it was not right.
Yeah, I like the premise.
Yeah, I like the premise too. And I like the first 10 minutes, except for the odd death in the quick first 10 minutes. And that was very peculiar. Why go to the trouble of getting Chris Christopherson? Did they edit him out of it and then bring him back to kill him because he was bad? Like, it didn't even make any sense. Why not just get anybody? Why Chris Christopherson? I was expecting way more.
It's probably one of those things where they can put his name on the poster and try and...
Well, that's very disappointing if you went to see that movie for Chris Christopherson, let me tell you that.
It sure is.
Yeah.
But you know what? We had to watch this movie because we're in our project of covering
every Queen Latifah. Yeah.
Yeah, every Queen Latifah movie. So it had to be done.
Yeah, it's part of the canon, so we were there for it.
And honestly, like, I certainly, like, some of our other weird canons that we have spent time in, looking at you, Gary Marshall, I much prefer Joyful Noise to, like, you know, Valentine's Day or Mother's Day or New Year's Eve. Like,
yes. I loved how Dolly had her choir robes like fitted to her figure.
Me too.
I too. If you're going to go through that much trouble to get looking like that, you should show it off. Agreed. There could be nothing more shapeless, although I do appreciate the shapelessness of the choir gown as well.
I like it. If you want to, if you want your choir gown to reveal a silhouette, do it. Yeah. But the rest of you don't have to. Great.
Yeah. And
I love it when we can all show up in the same outfit, but like other people have done some alterations.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Exactly. But yeah, I would not recommend this to anyone. If you're listening right now, you've been warned. That's all we can say.
But if you are a Queen Latifah completist, do it.
Well,
get in there.
Yeah, then.
Like, she is very good, and she does way more than the material asks of her.
Very true.
Agreed.
Yeah.
So we also like to leave our episodes on something we recommend. I am going to do the rare thing where I make myself go first because mine is perhaps the slightest recommendation. You guys are going to maybe make fun of me, but it's also so fun and cool. So I'm recommending this great gift that I got from my friend Amy. It is by Morphe. It's the Sour Patch Kids inspired eyeshadow.
Okay.
Palette.
Okay.
Look at how beautiful it is.
So
those are some bright colors.
I know. I love it. I wanted some like neon and bright colors, and it's so beautiful, and I love it so much.
So is that in the makeup section or the food section of the drugstore?
Can you lick it?
It's the makeup section at Sephora. Thank you very much. It's a Morphe palette. I don't think that's drugstore, but maybe it is. I don't know. But I just like love them so much. Like some of the colors are like just like these bright pinks and some bright reds, and like there's a few like more slightly like muted glitters, but they have glitter in them. I love it so much.
Are they edible?
I have not licked any of them, and nor am I going to.
They look delicious.
They're so great, and I love them.
I'm sure your eyes will look delicious.
Yeah, I mean, not today. I didn't wear anything today, but I did wear like them out to an outdoor, like a small outdoor party, like a little birthday thing, and I got compliments on my eyeshadow.
Wow. Does it at least smell like Sour Patch Kids?
No, I'm so sorry. There's no smell.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's not a scratch and sniff type thing.
They just look like colorful and bright like Sour Patch Kids.
Who would have ever have thought of like, hey, let's consult the Sour Patch Kids folks.
Wow. They were right to do it, I guess, when you look at it.
It's so smart from a licensing standpoint. Like, think of all the different candies. Are you going to buy like M&M's candy inspired makeup? Maybe, but like Skittles. Not now that they got rid of those boots. Like her boots were so successful. But Skittles, yeah, for sure. Skittles inspired makeup, that would be delicious and super bright and fun.
Yeah. Okay. Agreed.
Okay.
But I am going to challenge you on a thin recommendation and say that I have been kind of dancing between watching Frasier reruns, which has really comforted me. I was looking for a cozy show.
Yep.
So I started at the very beginning, and I mixed that with my murder mystery. So it's, I sometimes feel a bit like maybe Frasier's just being a bit light. Dip back into the intense murder mystery. That gets a bit heavy. I'm going to Frasier. So I guess what I'm recommending to people is to have a balance right there. So if you are into your murder mysteries, just have a Frasier on hold for you. And I don't know, how many seasons are there of the show? Like 9, 10?
9, 10, 12, something like that.
Is there really that many? Okay.
Yeah,
well,
I did a great Frasier rewatch like a number of years ago. And I was like, God, this lasts forever. It's really quite funny for the most part. I mean, some of the stuff doesn't age that well. But I had to personally object when you're not there yet. So let me know when you get to like season 8 or 9.
Whoa!
It's a Daphne subplot that I personally object to.
Okay, jeez.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm looking forward to that moment. We'll find out when that happens. And
Yeah.
That's the very thin recommendation. I think the Sour Patch Kids had more resonance myself. But...
I mean, look, both have changed the landscape of pop culture in different ways.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I'm gonna recommend a podcast I've been listening to called Chameleon Wild Boys, and it's the story about how two boys walked out of the bush in Vernon in 2003, claiming that they've never, they'd grown up in the woods and they'd never seen a TV and they'd never gone to school and whatever, and they kind of like duped this whole town into believing that they were wild boys.
Oh wow!
Yeah, and it's quite a fascinating podcast, and it's told by this guy who grew up in Vernon at the time, and he just kind of like out of the blue one day remembered this story of something that happened when he was there, and he decided to investigate it, and it's fascinating. It's a fascinating con story.
Chameleon Kids?
Chameleon Wild Boys.
Wild Boys, okay. Chameleon Wild Boys. Oh, that sounds good.
Yeah, that sounds great.
Or I can just wait for the Netflix special is what you're saying.
Yeah, it'll probably be out by the time you finish watching Frasier.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, if I get through 9 seasons, I will feel very bleak, but we'll see what happens.
You can do it. I have a lot of faith in you.
In fact, I'm going to go watch as soon as we're finished here.
That sounds great.
I need my Joyful Noise palette cleanser.
I mean, let's face it. Like, I think the next few weeks of Oscar movies that we watch are going to be a little bit on the darker side anyway.
You're going to be begging to rewatch Joyful Noise at the end of our Oscar season.
Yeah. Wow. Oh, so harsh. You really just you really just sort of gave me some pause for thought. So cool.
Well, that's what we have to look forward to the next couple of weeks. So that's
can't
exciting.
wait.
Yeah, can't wait. Yeah.
Join us.
Join us, won't you? Am I stealing Karina Longworth?
It's fine. Paying tribute.
Exactly. Yes.
Especially if you mention her specifically, it's not stealing. It's
right. There you go. It's an homage.
Yeah, it's an homage. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. You can hang out with us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. You could email us at popthiscollective@gmail.com. And
thanks so much to Andrea Gin, our producer, co-host, and figure skating aficionado. You get triple from Andrea.
And wannabe ballet skiing
aficionado. And join her campaign.
Yeah.
She will she'll be launching it soon.
Back.
Bring it back. You can probably find that 1 or 2 people that are still doing it, just waiting. It'll be back.
Join her campaign. It's going to be beautiful. I love it.
Yeah.
Well, to all of you ballet skiers, thank you so much.
Thank you.